Good Wednesday morning for you, but for me, it's a little day, but it's dark in here because it's overcast. Anywho, welcome to Wednesday Morning Manna. I am Pastor Lexi Johnson, and we're here for our midweek alignment with heaven. This is not inspiration. This is formation. This is where we grow as disciples, where we mature in the word and align our lives with the kingdom of Yah, one passage at a time. We are coming toward the end of our journey through the crossing. Now, of course, probably by now you know that we are here. This has been pre recorded, just reminding you all that I took a break from the lives this month for not only this show, but all the shows or podcasts that I do. So just a reminder, since you don't hear me acknowledging you, in real time and all of that. But do tell me who you are, where you're watching from, because I will definitely come back and check the comments and answer any questions that someone may have if you leave the question there in the comment for me to answer. All right. So we've been talking about much more than Israel physically moving from one side of the Jordan to the other. We have been talking about what Yah has to do within us when he is preparing us for something new. We've talked about consecration. We've talked about following his presence or carrying his presence. We've talked about stepping out in faith. We've talked about leaving the wilderness mindset behind. We've talked about remembering his faithfulness, right? Building those memorials with the memorial stones. And last week we talked about choosing courage when the future is unknown. So today we're going to talk about something every transition eventually requires, which is capacity. All right. Because sometimes the issue isn't whether Yah wants to bring something new into our lives. The issue is whether we have become capable of carrying it. Okay. We ask the Lord to elevate us, to promote us, to give us something new all the time. But have we increased our capacity? Do we have built the capacity to carry what we're asking for, right? So let's go to Matthew chapter 9, verse 16 and 17. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. And you know what? I just realized I have my fan on. Turn it off in case it was causing, I don't know if you guys could hear it or not. I'm going to turn it off in case you could hear that. I'm also going to remind you that I have my grandson visiting with me. So if you start to hear a little 4-year-old voice somewhere or some, moving around, that's it. Okay. All right. So Matthew chapter 9, verse 16 and 17, I'm reading from the NLT. It says, besides, who would patch old clothing with new cloth? For the new patch would shrink and rip away from the old cloth, leaving an even bigger tear than before. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the old skins would burst from the pressure, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine is stored in new wineskins so that both are preserved. Now, in this passage, Yahusha uses two simple illustrations, right? He explains that you don't put a new piece of cloth on an old garment because a new material can pull away, right, and make the tear even worse. Then he describes right after that this new wine needing to be placed into wineskins, but not just any wineskins. They had to be fresh, new wineskins, right? Fresh wine needs a container that's capable of expanding with it, right? The old wineskins are worn out. They don't really have that ability to expand anymore. Okay. It's inflexible. The container will burst or it can burst, right? And both the wine and the container now will be lost. So that's the same thing when he is talking about, moving us into new territory, moving us into a new assignment, another calling, right? We have to have the capacity to carry it. We cannot take on something new, being the same person that we were yesterday for the previous assignment. Okay. New wine requires new wineskins. Yahusha wasn't simply talking about clothing or containers, he was revealing something about transition. So, what Yah is doing next may require something different from you than what the previous season required. I'm almost sure of it. And when I'm saying almost, I'm just saying typically when you go into a new season, it will require something new. Very seldom does it not stretch you. Okay. Today's Hebrew word is Chadash, Chadash. I made that face because I'm like, maybe that's how it's pronounced. Maybe not. Okay. This is why I always give you all the spelling. So Chadash. Chadash. Correct. New, it means new, fresh, renewed, something newly made or restored. It carries the idea of something becoming new or being renewed, right? And that's important because when Yah introduces something new, he often begins by renewing us. See, we want the new circumstance, but Yah often starts with the new person, right? We want the new assignment, but Yah develops the new capacity. We want the new opportunity, but he's preparing the new wineskin. Okay. So, teaching point number one: old habits limit new assignments. Boy, let me tell you, okay? Do I know this to be true? My hard headed self. Okay. Let's be honest. Sometimes we ask Yah for a new season while we keep holding on tightly to the habits of the old one. We want these new results, but we keep using old patterns. We want greater responsibility, but we haven't developed greater discipline. Mercy, Lord. We want greater influence, but we haven't even learned to have greater restraint. Yeah, because restraint is needed. The larger your influence gets, the more restraint you need, right? And we want Yah to trust us with more while we're still mishandling what we already have. And that, my friends, brothers, sisters, and the Lord, that's an old wineskin problem. Okay. The issue isn't that the wine is bad. The issue is that the container hasn't changed. All right. And so sometimes Yah isn't saying no. Okay. What he's saying is, let me prepare you to carry it. He's saying, not yet, but I want to prepare you to carry it. Right. So Ephesians chapter 4, 22 to 24 is a supporting scripture. And for the sake of time, write it down, read it later. But Paul is telling the believers to put away the old nature and allow Yah to renew their thoughts and attitudes, right? Putting on the new nature created according to Yah's righteousness. Okay. So we have to put on the new. But notice the progression. We first have to put off, right? The old nature. Then we have to be renewed. How are we renewed? Through our thoughts, right? Which then affects our attitudes and our behaviors. And then as we're doing that, that process of expressing the new thoughts and living the new attitudes and all of that, we have been renewed. We are being renewed, right? And we're putting on righteousness, Yah's righteousness. So there is a transformation that's taking place inside of you before the outward expression fully changes. Okay. All right. Point number two: Yah often changes us before he changes our circumstances. So we tend to pray, Yah, change my situation. But sometimes, right, Yah answers, no, 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 I'm not changing the situation yet. I am changing you first. Because see, when I change you, I may not even need to change the situation, right? Or maybe I will. But I'm always going to start with you, because if the situation changes, but we don't, then we are going to recreate the same problem in a different environment. All right. So a person can leave one job, carry the same dysfunction into the next job. So a person can leave one relationship and carry the same patterns into another. This is why it's so important to do the work, right? Do the work, develop. Okay. A person can receive more money and still have the same financial behaviors. And you all know, I know, right? After counseling people, coaching people, strategizing with people for years regarding money, I see this all the time, right? Um, you cannot enter a new assignment, a new ministry assignment, and still operate with the insecurities of the old season. It just doesn't work. Changing the environment doesn't automatically change the person. And I remember I used to think like this. When you like, how so? But seriously, when you think, oh, let's just move to a new city or move to a new house or do, or whatever it is that's new, get a new car, do whatever, go to a new church, whatever, new job, whatever. You think that that's the answer, but it's not. He's not interested in just moving us somewhere new. He wants us to be capable. He wants to make us capable, right, of thriving in the new place. All right. So Romans 12:2. Romans 12:2. Again, write that down. Maybe I'll read it. Romans 12:2, but write it down so you can go back and meditate on it. Don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. You all right? Okay. So Paul tells us to allow Yah to transform us through the renewing of our minds, right? And why is he telling us that? He's telling us that so that we can recognize what is good, what is pleasing, and what is aligned with Yah's will. So renewed thinking creates the renewed capacity. So if you have not had a change in the way you think, a change in your perspective, um, you know, something new that you have learned that is causing you to change how you operate in a sense, um, you might question, right, whether or not you're ready for the new thing. All right. Point number 3. Flexibility is a mark of maturity. Now, here's something that we don't always want to hear. Maturity requires flexibility. Now, I don't know about you. I don't always want to hear that, right? Because I am a very structured person. I'm a very structured person. So a lot of times I don't like, oh, you just need to be flexible. We can, I might need to change it up today or tomorrow, this, that, or the other. I can do it to a degree, right? I have learned to do it to a degree, because it's necessary, right? Now, some flexibility or whatever, sometimes people that's just, is out of line. But flexibility is a good thing. Okay. Flexibility is a good thing when done right. So immaturity says, well, this is how I've always done it. But maturity asks, yeah, what are you requiring of me now? So when it comes to that, this is how I've always done it. I've not had a problem with that. Okay. My structure comes in terms of like, I do this on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I do some Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mine is more like of a time thing, right? I'm going to give you this 4 hours and then I got to move on to the next thing. Right. So, but, needing things to be done the way they've always been done in terms of, yeah, well, this has been the protocol for 25 years. Like I've never been that person. Right. Maturity asks, yeah, what are you requiring of me now? Right. And I'm always down for that kind of um, change. I think last week I mentioned to you all I have a couple of assignments that I'm dealing with right now that I'm like, right? Like these, it's new, but it's also exciting because I just have learned to be like, all right, Lord, I don't know, but you know, and it's all good, right? I don't know, but apparently, whatever I need to be doing, the steps I need to be taking, you have prepared me for, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have allowed, well, necessarily you wouldn't have allowed it, but the it wouldn't be the season for it, right? So immaturity clings to the familiar methods, right? Simply because they're familiar. But maturity is willing to learn, to adjust, to grow, to be corrected, to change. Not because truth changes, because we know that the truth never changes, right? But because we are continually being developed in how we apply what Yah has taught us. The Israelites, they couldn't cross the Jordan and then continue operating as though they were still in the wilderness because they're no longer wandering. So they have to come out of a wandering mentality into a new mentality, right? A new territory required new behavior. A new assignment required new responsibility. And a new season required new capacity. Proverbs 4:18, write that down in your meditation time. Please go to it and read it. But it talks to us about, this path of righteous being compared to the light of dawn that grows brighter and brighter. And that's growth, right? We're not supposed to remain exactly where we started. It's not growth. We're not supposed to even, okay, this is where I started, but I go here, I go here, I go here, come back, come back here. You keep coming back to the same point. It's not growth, right? If Yah's developing you, you should be able to look back and recognize, I don't think the way that I used to think. I don't respond the way that I used to respond, right? Or even I don't make decisions the way I used to make decisions, right? And that is evidence of growth. Okay. So we think that the new job, the new mission, the new, but we think that that is the assignment, but capacity is the assignment. Okay. Capacity is the assignment. Think about everything that we've covered throughout this year. Repentance taught us how to turn. Okay. We had to build the capacity to turn. Restoration taught us how to rebuild. So we had to now have the capacity to rebuild something. Growth taught us how to mature. Kingdom authority taught us how to govern. Discernment taught us how to recognize, right? Purpose taught us how to respond to our assignment. And now the crossing is teaching us how to move. But all of that has required one thing. Everything that we have taught in this series and from the beginning of this year has required one thing. And that thing is capacity. Yah has been stretching us. He has been correcting us. He has been strengthening us, renewing us, teaching us, not simply so that we can say that we've learned something, but so that we can carry something, right? Because the next season, 5787, right? We getting ready to close out 5786. The next season is going to require more than just excitement. It is going to require capacity. Now, this week, I want you to ask yourself, what needs to become new in me? Okay. Not what needs to change around me or who needs to change, but me. What needs to become new in me? What needs to change in me? Right? Is it my discipline? Is it my thinking? Is it my emotional responses? Is it my stewardship? Is it my communication? Is it my ability to receive correction? Is it my ability to wait? Is it my consistency? Right? Is it my ability to handle responsibility? What is it? What in me needs to mature? Right? And after you've answered that, I want you this week to identify an old habit that can't accompany you into the next season. It just can't. Ask Yah what needs to be renewed in your thinking. Practice responding differently when an old trigger appears. Be willing to receive correction without becoming defensive. And ask Yah to increase your capacity, not simply your opportunities. Okay? New wine requires new wineskins. And sometimes we are praying for Yah to pour something new into our lives while He's saying, let me make you capable of carrying it. Right? Don't despise the stretching. Don't resent the correction. Don't mistake this preparation time for delay. The stretching is developing capacity in you. The renewal is preparing the container, okay? Because you don't want to get out there and your container break because you ain't had the capacity to carry, right? When Yah brings you into the next season, you don't simply have something new, you have become someone who can steward the something new. All right. So as we continue the crossing, we've got one more week. Remember, a new season doesn't just require a new destination, it requires a renewed vessel. Don't just ask for the new wine. Ask, make me a new wine skin. Yes. So until next week, remain teachable, remain flexible, and allow Yah to continue making you capable of carrying what He has prepared for you. All right. God bless. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. And don't forget to join us on Saturday, 12:30 Eastern for Rest and Rain Bible Study Hour. God bless.